I grew up in rural Kentucky, the kind of place where the land goes quiet before the sky explodes. It was an old farmhouse passed down from my great-grandfather, a retired coal miner who swore storms out there weren't just weather. They were omens. "Storms don't always fall from the sky, boy," he once told me. "Sometimes they rise from the dirt." I never really understood what he meant. Not until the summer of 2009. I was 17. My parents had gone to a neighbor's cookout down the road. I'd stayed home to study for a chemistry test and maybe sneak in some horror movies when the power went out. If it did, and it always did during storms. That night, around 10:30 p.m., the thunder started. It rolled so deep and slow it felt like a train dragging chains across the land. The air had a copper taste. I could feel it coating my tongue. Rain hadn't started yet, which was strange given how violent the thunder had become. I was sitting in the living room, lights still on, watching flashes blink across the sky through the bay window. At first, it looked normal, but then I noticed something that chilled me. The lightning was landing closer and closer, but not randomly. It was following a pattern, a straight path. It lit up one section of our pasture, then the next, like someone walking with a flashlight toward the house. Then came the strike that hit just outside the gate. It was so close I felt the heat through the glass. Everything went white, and the lights flickered once, then came back on. My heart was racing, but I couldn't look away from the window. That's when I saw it. A tall silhouette standing at the open gate. I didn't hear it open. It had been locked with a chain. But now it stood ajar, and the figure was just standing there as if deciding whether to come inside. Then the knocking started, not on the door, but on the glass. Once, soft, deliberate. I jumped. No one was there, but a single handprint had formed on the inside of the window. Long, almost skeletal fingers, like they had pressed through the glass itself. The air smelled like scorched hair. I ran, straight to the basement, locked the door behind me. The last thing I saw before I turned out the lights was another lightning strike, dead center on the porch. I woke up at dawn, curled on the cold concrete floor. Everything above was quiet. When I stepped outside, the yard was still wet, but there were no signs of damage. No trees split, no power lines down. Just one thing stood out, a narrow burn trail like a lightning scar that began at the edge of our fence and ended at the front steps. My best friend Jason had an older brother named Cole. Everyone in town knew him. Kind, quiet, weirdly smart. But Jason once told me that Cole changed when it rained. I didn't believe it until the night I slept over in 11th grade. A massive storm rolled in around midnight, lightning streaking like spider veins, thunder booming so loud it shook the bed. Jason and I were playing video games when he paused and asked, "Do you hear that?" I did. It wasn't thunder. It was a humming, a low, vibrating sound, like a dozen voices whispering in unison. We looked out the window, and there was Cole, standing barefoot in the middle of their backyard, shirtless, arms out to his sides, face to the sky. The rain didn't even seem to touch him. Jason grabbed a towel and rushed outside, yelling his name. I followed. As we got closer, we heard it. Cole was speaking, but not in his voice. It was guttural, broken like static through a bad speaker. The words were chilling. The sky remembers. He walks again. Let the body open. I froze. That wasn't Cole. That wasn't human. Jason grabbed his arm, and Cole collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. We dragged him inside, dripping and cold, but his eyes were wide open. He blinked once, and in his real voice, whispered, "He's not done with me." Cole never remembered those nights, but every major thunderstorm after that, he would wander, sometimes barefoot in the street. Once they found him standing on the roof of their neighbor's garage during a tornado siren. arms spread like wings. When Cole died in 2018, it wasn't from sickness or an accident. He was driving home from work under a clear sky when a lightning bolt struck his car directly, igniting the engine. The firemen said it was the strangest lightning strike they'd ever seen. There were no clouds for miles. Jason was devastated. And he swears that since that night, whenever it rains just hard enough, he hears a voice through the static of his phone, through the walls, even through the hum of the TV. And sometimes, it whispers his name. If you've ever felt like a storm was watching you, you're not alone. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, especially if you want protection from what waits in the thunder. We've got more stories and more warnings to come. I work night shifts for a private company that manages highway rest stops, janitorial, maintenance, low-level stuff. I liked the solitude. Most nights I didn't see another soul after midnight, but after what happened during a storm on Route 40 in Oklahoma, I haven't worked a single overnight since. It was mid-July. A brutal storm had been tearing across the Midwest all day, and by 1:30 a.m., I was nearing the last rest stop on my route. Lightning kept cracking so bright and often, it looked like someone kept flipping a switch on the sky. When I pulled in, the parking lot was empty. The only lights were the old flickering flood lamps near the building's entrance. I stepped inside and instantly felt like I'd walked into something wrong. Not scary at first, just off. The air didn't feel humid like outside. It felt dead, the kind of silence you feel in deep caves. I started my usual sweep. The lights in the hallway were dim, and half of them flickered like they were on the verge of going out. I made my way into the restroom, and something immediately struck me. Wet footprints leading from the last stall to the mirror. But there was no one there. I called out. No answer. Then I heard it, a whisper. It wasn't a voice exactly. It was like hearing wind through broken glass, but forming syllables. I stepped closer, and that's when I looked up. There were bare human footprints on the ceiling, perfectly spaced, like someone had been walking upside down. Then the stall door creaked open on its own. What I saw beyond it still haunts my dreams. It wasn't the stall anymore. It was a space. An opening, like looking into a sky that didn't belong here. It pulsed with a crimson hue, and shapes moved in it, shifting, crawling, like shadows made of bone. I ran. The moment I stepped back into the hallway, the building groaned, and the lights went black. Then, lightning hit outside, and through the brief flash, I saw it. Someone was standing in the reflection of the bathroom mirror, but I was facing the other direction. When emergency lights flicked on seconds later, the place was normal again. But my boots left strange red stains on the tile as I walked out. I never figured out what that red dust was. It didn't match anything native to Oklahoma. That night, the thunder didn't roll. It laughed. Still here. So is it. The next horror is already crawling through the screen.